Do you need an employment visa for Germany, and are you asking yourself if the accelerated skilled employee visa procedure, beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, actually makes sense in your case? Then this video is for you. My name is Mirko. I'm a German attorney at law in Berlin. I am specialized in visa and immigration law. I'm part of VISAGUARD, and in this video I'm going to explain in which cases the beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren according to section 81a of the Residence Act actually is useful. The overburdening of the German foreign missions, consulates and embassies is a heavy problem. Most of the foreign missions are heavily overloaded with work. They have to process way more applications than they can handle. Appointments are not available, inquiries remain unanswered, and most of the applicants and employers are just frustrated when it comes to the visa application process. The German government realized that the absurd processing times for visa applications, employment visa applications, is one of the reasons for the lack of skilled employees in Germany, Fachkräftemangel. So in 2019-2020, the government tried to get rid of this problem by introducing beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, skilled employee, accelerated skilled employee visa procedure. The idea was instead of the employee doing the visa procedure, the employer does the communication with the authorities. You pay 411 additional euros, and the embassy and the authorities handle your application with priority. This was the idea. But did this actually work? Does the accelerated skilled employee visa procedure make application at the embassies or consulates faster? From an attorney perspective, the answer is mostly no, it did not work. Actually, in some cases, in most cases, it makes things even more complicated. There are only a few cases where you actually want to use beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, and in those cases it has the intended effect of speeding up the visa application. To understand in which cases the accelerated skilled employee procedure actually makes sense and has the intended effect of speeding up application processes, we must understand what the accelerated skilled employee procedure is and how it works. So if you hand in an application at the foreign mission, for you it looks like you're only handing in one application for one administrative act. However, legally and technically that is not true. Actually, you're handing in several applications. All those applications are processed internally by the foreign mission, by the embassy or consulate. But what they do is they send the application digitally to Germany, and in Germany several authorities need to give consent for the visa issuance. We have Bundesagentur für Arbeit, the Federal Employment Agency, which needs to give consent for the employment permit, labor market approval. We have the recognition authorities, ZAP and KMK, which are responsible for your degree recognition. So as a skilled employee, you need a recognized degree in Germany. In some cases, we also have the approval from the Foreigners Office at the place where you're going to live. We have the security authorities, so especially Bundeskriminalamt, which is responsible to check your application for any threats for Germany, so criminal record and maybe terrorism threats. And lastly, we have the approval from the embassy itself. So your visa application is basically 5 applications in one. And this is the reason why some applications, especially employment application, take so much time, because the embassy needs to wait for several approvals. So the idea of the accelerated skilled employee procedure, beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, was to concentrate all of those approval processes at one new authority. The government thought if they bundle all of the approval processes at a new authority, that this authority might be faster in obtaining the approvals from the authorities in comparison to the embassy or consulate. This was the idea. However, actually the opposite happened. The government introduced beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, and they created a new authority within the Bundesländer called Zentrale Ausländerbehörde, Central Foreigners Office. Those Central Foreigners Office should be theoretically responsible for the accelerated skilled employee procedure. And theoretically, they should work faster than the embassies to get all of the approvals. And then they just send the application, the approvals to the embassy, and then you get your appointment and everything is done. However, what happened practically is that the government just introduced another authority for approvals. So before you have 5, or depending on the application, 3 or 4 authorities that need to give consent for your visa, for the issuance of your visa. And now with the Central Foreigners Office, you have a 6th authority. So actually it is more approval requirements and more formalities and more administrative work than before. Also, some of the Bundesländer did not introduce the Central Foreigners Office. They didn't create a new authority. They just used what they already had. So they just said, okay, we do not create a new Central Foreigners Office. We just use the Foreigners Office which already exists in our Bundesland. And this led to the absurd fact that suddenly, especially at the countryside, very small foreigners' offices were suddenly responsible for the processing of those applications. And the small foreigners' office, they're just as slow and overloaded and in some cases incompetent as the embassies. So if you do beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren at a smaller city, you're handing your application to a foreigner's office that doesn't really know how to process the application. And this foreigner's office is then responsible to communicate with all of the approval authorities. And this practically never works. Another reason why beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, accelerated skilled employee procedure, failed is that the formal requirements are absurdly high. So, for example, to initiate beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, you need to provide a power of attorney from your employer. However, this power of attorney, the official guidelines for this power of attorney say that needs to be signed by an official representative from the company. For smaller companies, that's not a problem. But in bigger companies, that leads to the fact that suddenly top-level management needs to handle your visa application, because usually the official representatives of big companies are only top-level management. So in big companies, you need to escalate a simple visa application higher in the hierarchy to get the power of attorney signed. So in summary, all of this led to the result that beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, the accelerated employee procedure according to section 81A of the Residence Act, does not actually speed up visa application and actually makes things slower. So as a law firm, we basically never use it, and we hardly advise to not use it. However, having said all of this, there are actually cases where beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren makes sense. Those are very rare, but they do exist. So we have discussed that one of the problems or one of the reasons of the absurd processing times of employment visa application is that you have to obtain the approval from several authorities. However, there are cases or applications which do not need that many approvals. So, for example, the blue card. The blue card, you can do easy Zeugnisbewertung, degree recognition at ZAP yourself. It's a very fast process. If you do the degree recognition for your university degree at ZAP yourself, it is maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Secondly, for blue card applications, if you apply for the big blue card with the higher salary threshold, no approval from Bundesagentur für Arbeit, no labor market approval is required. So if you apply for a blue card with a university degree, you do not have the disadvantage of the requirement to obtain several approvals. And in those cases, you can use the advantages of beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren. And one of the advantages of beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren is that the embassy is obligated to offer you an appointment within 3 weeks, and after the appointment they have to decide about your application within 3 weeks. So beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren makes sense if the only bottleneck of your application is the appointment availability. If no appointments at your embassy are available and you want to apply for an employment visa which does not need that many approvals, for example blue card, then beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren can be very useful. And in those cases, we as a law firm, we also use it. So what is the takeaway from this video? What did we learn here? Firstly, the reason why so many employment visa applications have such a long processing time is that an absurd amount of approvals from other authority is required. And most cases somehow get stuck within all of the communication processes between the authorities. The lawgiver recognized this as a problem and tried to introduce a new authority, a new procedure, beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, to get the approvals faster and to speed up the communication processes. This didn't work. It had actually the opposite effect of just creating another step, another authority, another approval requirement. So basically, the message here is don't use beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren. The only case where you want to use the accelerated skilled employee procedure is if you do not need all of those approvals, and the only reason why your application is not being processed that fast is that no appointments at the embassy or consulate are available. So, was this video helpful for you? Did you learn if beschleunigtes Fachkräfteverfahren, accelerated skilled employee procedure, is actually useful for your case? Then like and subscribe, visit our website, follow us on social media, and stay tuned for more immigration law content.